Yo, what's up guys, we are back for Hope You're Happy Lemon chapter 82, and yeah, we're just gonna hop straight into it. Off the last few chapters, Lemon has steeled her resolve, and she's now making the conscious decision to try to get back with Sunao. Rather than just becoming, really close friends, she wants to get romantically involved with Sunao again. But yeah, this chapter was very interesting. I don't know how I feel about it, right? I don't know how I feel about the direction that we're taking. Basically, off the last chapter, Lemon and Sunao decided to go to like this book fair, book festival thing, and buy books. It's like, it happens every year, and Lemon wanted to get some new books. Sunao was like, yeah, I'll come with you. He's just trying to be nice to Lemon. He wants to make sure that they're friends, they're on good terms, because what's been previously happening in the story is that Lemon has been acting more cold, more distant towards him, and he doesn't know why. So he's trying to do his best to get on her good side, I would say. But the thing is why she's acting this way is because, she's realizing that she still has feelings for Sunao, right? Lemon is realizing, hey, I still like Sunao. I can't really get over him. And I said, hey, let's get closer and become better friends with each other. But, deep inside, she's like, that's not what my plan is here. So yeah, chapter 82, we are starting with them at the beginning of their date, right? They're just meeting up with each other. They both show up a little early. There's a little back and forth. Not too much is really happening here, but as they start walking, Sunao goes and says he can't get those letters stuck out of his head, and those letters are D-A-T-E, date, right? Basically, after Lemon suggested this whole outing that they were having, Sunao realized it like way after the fact. He was like, wait, this is kind of like a date. And he was kind of overthinking it. He was like, there's no way that she's still thinking like that. There's no way that she still likes me. But yeah, lo and behold, that is what Lemon is thinking in this situation. The thing is that in Sunao's character right now, he is trying to get together with Kogahara, right? But as we kind of see throughout this chapter, he still does have some residual feelings, right? That was his first, partner, first girlfriend. But yeah, moving forward. Basically, they're just going through different shops and looking at the different books that they have there. Sunao goes and finds one that's kind of interesting to him, and he gets kind of engrossed reading it. And then he looks up and tries to find where Lemon is, but he can't find her. But then she pops up, right? And she finds a few books that she likes. Or I'm assuming they're books, right? I'm assuming she picked up some books. They're like some mystery thing. I don't know. But regardless, they end up checking out of that store. They get some food, and then they go to another store, and Lemon's trying to decide on what book she wants. Whatever. I mean, really kind of what this whole chapter is signifying is not, look at the specific books that they're getting. It's more of just showing, hey, they're on a date. They're doing date-like things. And it's also kind of showing us their dichotomy together, right? Sunao and Lemon, they have really good one-on-one interactions with each other. It seems very comfortable, very natural. I think that's mostly what we're getting from this chapter. And yeah, this is just kind of Lemon's way of spending more time with Sunao outside of, work and just club activities. I don't know, because they have to hang out with each other and exchange information because of the body swapping. But yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, this looks like a date, right? Eventually they get done shopping, and Lemon is shooting her shot yet again, right? She's like, oh, do you want to go to a cafe and read these books together? Personally, if that was me, I would say no. But Sunao, he is, he's trying to be nice, trying to be friendly with Lemon. He's not against it, right? So he's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. The only thing is that all of these stores around them are crowded, all these cafes. So they, end up walking and trying to find another cafe that they could go read at, but that was also crowded as well. But yeah, eventually they sit down, get some coffee, and they're just kind of chopping it back and forth. Sunao got some short story collection, and Lemon goes and says, hey, can I read that book that you bought earlier? Sunao says, go ahead, you want the short story collection? And then she says, yeah, thanks. Right after this, Lemon goes and says, well, I thought this might be a good chance, so I want to know what kind of writing you're into. How do I feel about this, bro? We can obviously see that Lemon is trying her hardest, right? She's trying to flirt with Sunao. Well, not really flirt. I don't know, bro. But she's trying to get to know Sunao better, trying to build a closer bond with Sunao. After she says this, his heart skips a beat. Gets a little flustered, whatever. But I think personally, this is a little too early in the series for this all to be happening. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Moving forward, they start reading the books, and Sunao gets a flashback, right? He looks over at Lemon, and he just is reminded of the past. He just remembers back to when they were in the library and just reading books together or studying together and just kind of reminiscing on those days. From their interactions together, it looks like they used to, tease each other more. But yeah, I mean, it's really just kind of like a wholesome little flashback that they have. Basically, as he puts it in his own words, it's kind of like deja vu, right? All these old memories just got brought back from this quote-unquote date that they're having. And he's just remembering the past fondly rather than negatively. So what does this mean for the story? To me, it just kind of shows that Sunao isn't as anti-Lemon as he like portrayed himself to be. You know, at the beginning of the series, he was more of like, oh, I really hate Lemon. Why would she ever do this to me? But once they, you know, cleared up the murky waters, and basically after Lemon explained her situation on what happened, he's been just being more open towards her and not really hostile, right? Like, okay, because the point I'm trying to get at is that I don't think it's bad for him to be like reminiscing on the past in a positive light, but what that signifies for the story here is that he would still have feelings for Lemon, right? He's been blushing, flustered, thinking about the past, good times with Lemon while they're on this like pseudo-date type of thing, which, you know, if you're in any other like one-on-one rom-com, right? It's like, okay, of course, that's just like a generic thing that would happen. But here there's like a third party, right? There's Kogahara, and she's not even being like brought up in Sunao's mind, right? The past few chapters he has been, and it's kind of almost been like a limiter on what he would talk to Lemon about, or like, oh, I can't, you know, I'm in love with her right now. Like he would say stuff like that. This chapter, he's not doing any of that. So that's the only kind of issue I have here, is that it really seems like, oh, we might just shaft her. We might just shaft Kogahara, you know, very soon. Honestly, that could work as a situation, but I mean, that would just kind of short-sight the series, I feel like. I think the series would be a lot shorter if that happens. And honestly, I don't think it would be as enjoyable of a read. But yeah, we'll just have to see what comes of that. But yeah, jumping back to the story, Sunao goes and brings up, oh, this is kind of like deja vu. And then Lemon's like, oh, are you sure about that? And this is almost kind of, in these next few panels, next few pages are kind of almost showing like their old banter again. We get to see Lemon teasing Sunao yet again, saying, oh, it really takes you back, huh? And right as Lemon says this, you know, Sunao goes in sighs, almost looking a little defeated, I guess. And then Lemon goes and says, what, is something wrong? And Sunao responds with, nah, I'm just feeling a bit off today. Lemon thinks it's the sickness coming back and that she might need to nurse him back together again, but you know, she's just worried for him. But Sunao says, no, that's not what I meant. And right as she says this, in Lemon's bag, we see a notification pop up. And what is that notification? It is a text from Kogahara asking if she's home right now. And that is where we end off the chapter. I was kind of all over the place with this one. I just have a lot of things that I think about this chapter and what I think it means for the story going forward. To me, I don't really like it. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, you know, he's rekindling with his first love and they only broke up due to a misunderstanding. You know, they're really good for each other personality wise. But what we've been seeing in the story so far for like, you know, basically the whole story ever since, I don't know, maybe 20 chapters ago, it's basically just been Sunao being really adamant on getting together with Kogahara, making that relationship work out. And it really seems like a genuine, like, I don't know, effort or love kind of like being put in, right? He's smitten with her. You know, Kogahara also has a crush on him. And it's, you know, more like, I wouldn't say whimsical is the right word, but like, I feel like their storylines together are very good. And Lemon is just kind of, you know, she also has her own agenda, and, you know, she does mesh well with Sunao. But to me, I just don't really like the way that she's going about things, right? She knows that her best friend, her roommate, is in love with her ex-boyfriend, or, you know, but she still wants to get together with him. It's just like a kind of a weird situation, but I'm still kind of holding out hope because of the last few chapters. Sunao has been very gung-ho on, hey, I really like Kogahara and I want to make that work. So that's kind of his direction or viewpoint on things. The only thing is that this chapter is kind of changing that. What I'm looking forward to in the upcoming chapters in the kind of future of this series is what is going to happen with Kogahara's character. She does go and text, hey, Lemon, are you home right now? And of course she's not home. She's on a date with Sunao. And at this point, I mean, it could go a couple of ways, right? Because we've gotten a few chapters of Kogahara's perspective, right? She has been more of a, how do I put this? She has been kind of asking her like friends from college to like on what she should do with love, right? Like she's like in love or she thinks she has a crush, but she doesn't really understand it too much. She's just been asking for like advice and stuff. So maybe that could be a possibility on what happens. Kugahara goes in and asks Lemon, hey, I think I like Sunao, you know, and bringing that whole topic of discussion up. And I think that's gonna kind of, I want to say start a rift between them, but it's just going to kind of guilt trip Lemon a little bit, you know, unintentionally, of course. But Lemon already has kind of a guilty conscience going into this, and what she's doing. She kind of knows what she's doing is wrong, or she doesn't like what she's doing. But we'll see that plays out. What I want to happen is for Lemon to get rejected if she goes in like asks Sunao, hey, we should start dating again, or whatever. She goes, if she tries to like advance their relationship a little bit further, I'd want him to reject her advances, because to me it just feels like, hey, why did we even introduce Kugahara into the story as a character if we're not gonna like have her play like a major role in the story? I mean, I guess you say, well, if the series is only gonna, you know, be maybe 100 chapters long, yeah, it makes sense that, you know, she could be introduced as a third party and then just get, you know, booted out now because we're chapter 70, and then Lemon and Sunao form their relationship. But I do think there's a lot more that can be done with this concept, this whole premise of Hope You're Happy Lemon. And I think that Sunao could, you know, get together with Kugahara in this story and reject Lemon right now. And yeah, that would just open up a whole new can of worms of things that we can explore in the series, right? We've been given so many different characters and so many different ways of thinking about love and relationships in the story. I just like to see those fulfilled. I'd rather the series explore what is kind of built up already. But yeah, that's really what I think about this chapter and kind of going forward. I definitely yapped a lot more than I usually do, but if you like this style, definitely let me know. Also, let me know if there's any other series you want me to cover on the channel. I haven't covered the latest Rent-A-Girlfriend chapters. Maybe I'll cover 405. It's just, bro, I can't have those screenshots in my computer, bro. But yeah, if you want to stay up to date with a bunch of different rom-com series, this is the place. So yeah, I mean, that's really about it. So I'll see y'all.